If there's one topic that isn't discussed as often as it should be, it would be mental health, specifically to entrepreneurs in the online business space. Today's video is an attempt to potentially resonate with my audience or calm some people in my audience. A lot of influencers and a lot of gurus or people with authority online or followings online present an image of monk-like discipline, and they present a front or a form of character to their audience of, some sort of disciplined god with no flaws and constantly following the perfect routine and having everything lined up perfectly and making loads of money and basically always being happy and healthy and always being on their best behavior and doing what they should be doing to get the work done and get the results they want. And they attribute that sort of behavior to their success, which is in part true. But as someone who has been doing that for the last 18 months, it's occurred to me that I think it's important that a lot of you guys understand that perfection from a perspective of individual character or mindset doesn't really exist. And when you observe people on social media or on YouTube explaining how perfect they are or how perfect their mindset or lifestyle is, it leads you to believe and forces you to unconsciously succumb to the fact that perfection does exist and you should be living up to it. This creates a intense feeling of shame in certain individuals, or guilt, or something along the lines of usually shame and guilt. Basically, it happened to me where I would look up to certain people, and it wasn't until I started attending masterminds and getting closer to the individuals that I used to look up to that I realized that they were real humans, and that they just leveraged their time and energy in a very efficient and clever way, and that was what basically allowed them to become successful. And I think that there's a lot to be said for discipline, and there's a lot to be said for hard work and grinding and hustling and being emotionless in the face of everything in business, because it works and it makes you a lot of money. But I found myself constantly aware through my journey of my mental health and the fluctuation of that in accordance to my workload, my discipline load, etc. I don't really have an agenda or specific topic for this video, but I wanted to talk about mental health I've wanted to talk about it on my channel for a very long time, but I've never really understood what I wanted to say about it or how to articulate it. But now I've realized what it is. I think it's very common knowledge that when you're scrolling through Instagram, that what you're seeing isn't actually real. And a lot of people are very aware of that, and they're very cognizant of the fact that what they're observing on their screen as they're scrolling through the land of perfection isn't necessarily real. We understand that the majority of influencers' behavior is fictional, at least in the realm of influencer society. When it comes to online business and the observation of gurus such as Alex Hormozy, Sam Ovens, Alex Becker, and I would include myself in that. Obviously I'm not on that level, but it's very easy to create a projected identity that aligns with the majority of who you are, but to leave out the parts of yourself that you wouldn't want people to see or you wouldn't want people to look up to you for. I'm saying this because as far as discipline and mindset goes, I've got a lot of stuff on lock. I can work for 12 hours a day. I meditate every day. I exercise regularly. I don't eat refined sugar. I don't drink coffee. I sleep at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every night. I focus. I work properly. I don't do stupid shit. However, with that said, there are sometimes days or weeks or even months where I regress from those behaviors and I fall away from the realm of discipline and perfection. And I think it's important to understand that whilst that's unproductive, it's not unhealthy. Because when you just optimize for work and productivity, part of you is sacrificing not only your physical health, but your mental health. Today is an example. So today is, this is a Saturday. And throughout this week, I have worked quite hard. I've done lots of things. I've hosted lots of meetings. I've conducted lots of calls. I've built things and I've done things. And it's been a very busy week, productive week. It's taken a lot and drained a lot from me. And on Saturday today, I was supposed to, I'm just going to make sure this is focused properly. But on Saturday today, I was supposed to get up and go to the gym and meditate and work and, you know, do like half a day of consistent work. And I got up and I felt exhausted. And my mind and my body were actively resisting any form of productive action. And I've become a lot better at accepting that sometimes it's not appropriate to always be this disciplined paragon beacon of productivity and growth. And a quote I read a long time ago from Alex Durant, basically in one of his books, what is it? Alex and Will Durant, Will Durant and Ariel Durant. They wrote a book about history. I can't remember, Lessons of History or something like that. And towards the end of the book, Will Durant, one of the smartest men on earth, he said that in any developing individual who's making progress, there must be periods of regression. And that stuck with me for a long time. And I've never understood it. I always used to believe that success and growth should just be an upwards curve. But you have a body and you have a mind. And you have trauma, and you have emotional baggage, and you have emotions and stress and ego, and you have a past identity, and you have people around you who don't want you to change. And when you grow, all of those things fight back. And sometimes it's all right to lose the battle to win the war. And that's how you want to see your days, weeks, months, and years, is battles against wars. So in the long term, in the scheme of things, today, Saturday, I've lost the battle. And I don't mean lost with, you know, severe negative connotation or anything like that, because I'm giving my body and my mind the rest that it needs to continue to win battles, you know, throughout the next week, if that makes sense. And if I tried to, I could win today's battle, right? I could get up and I could work and I could, you know, do it all. But then on Monday, it would be even harder to win the battle. And then by Tuesday, I'd be so exhausted that my body would give me no choice. It's important to understand that your body will always win. If you push it too far, it will take you to a place where you physically, mentally, and spiritually cannot make progress. And managing your energy and your mental health is imperative and vital to the long-term progress of your individual nature, business, and efforts. And I think that a lot of the depression and anxiety and stress that commonly manifests in early entrepreneurs comes from a feeling of being overwhelmed with work that one cannot handle or foresee, basically. Think, oh, I should have expected this, I should have seen it coming, or this is a problem, I should be able to solve it. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not making sales, I should be making, there's an awful lot of expectation and pressure we put on ourselves. As an entrepreneur, when you start a business, you have to understand that you're quite weird for wanting to do that. It's uncommon and quite rare to have the psychological makeup or initial conditions psychologically for someone that wants to start a business and grow a business and work for themselves. When you observe what a business is, you don't really want to start a business. You want to start something that allows you to manifest a form of psychology or a sense of reality that gives you more control and really, if we're honest, helps you move away from certain painful scenarios that you're facing. For example, you might think you want financial freedom, but you don't want financial freedom. You just don't want the opposite, if that makes sense. That's usually how goals and unconscious manifestations of desire work. It's not about going after the thing you want, it's about running away from the thing that you don't. And so you might think you started your business so you can be free, which is great. But really, if you ask yourself honestly why, it's probably because you didn't want to be constrained. And constrain and feeling like you're not making progress is psychologically damaging to an individual who's very conscientious by nature. So I started my business, my first business, my agency, because of self-hatred, if I'm honest. And I was extremely angry and shameful of who I was and what I was at the time. And I didn't feel happy when I first started my business. And my business at the beginning was a vehicle for me to grow as an individual and fulfill certain psychological needs that would give me permission to actually love myself. And I'm now in a position psychologically, spiritually, mentally, where what I've built is enough for me to like myself and give myself self-love. And I think that everyone says you should love yourself for who you are, but it's impossible if you don't. So what I'm trying to say with that is that if you started your business because of some form of discomfort with who you are or your current situation, that's fine. You know, when the psychological conditions that represent themselves and show themselves, usually unconsciously in an early entrepreneur, are commonly negative. People start businesses because of fear, because of anger, because of hate, because of envy, right? Emotions that are deemed and perceived as negative are actually essential to manifest their opposite. And so I started my first business because of these things. And my mental health was in a really bad place when I started my first business. The reason that I was able to work so hard and the reason I was able to put myself through so much is because I was terrified of being average and being normal. And if I'm honest, and if I really consciously locate that and observe it and bring it to light, what I can tell you is there's a base level of narcissism or grandiosity and ego that I have within me that wouldn't accept less than incredible in the spotlight. Coming to terms with things like that for yourself is not an easy thing to do because it reveals ugly traits about you that society shuns and people around you shun, and you might also shun and judge the traits that you so unconsciously desire to manifest through a business. And so my business acted as a vehicle and a form of like physical representation of my poor mental health, if that makes sense. And I worked and worked and worked and worked, and I worked through everything. So this is the key, right? Is that if you are going through hell, you should keep going. There's nothing that the universe or the world can throw at you psychologically that you cannot overcome, I believe. Now, with that said, I've had the blessing and fortune of never having faced something that is so big that I feel like I can't tackle it. But in business specifically, you know, if you're working through self-doubt, if you're working through pain, if you're working through fear, if you're working through anxiety, if you're working through depression, I promise you, and this is my experience, it might not be right for everyone, but I promise you that it's worth the effort, and it's worth the pain, and it's worth the fear, and it's worth the anxiety, it's worth the depression, it's worth the stress, it's worth the burnout, it's worth everything you've got, because it's your life. You know, it's you, it's everything that you have and can become and have been and will be. And you've got this opportunity in front of you. You've got the years laid out ahead of you, and all you've really got is time and energy and some intelligence and a brain. And you must continue to use those things. Because if you don't, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. And so right now, your mental health as an entrepreneur, it might not be stellar. You might not be happy. You might be terrified. You might be in a period of self-doubt. You might have the most confidence in the world. I don't know. But all I want to say to you is that no matter how you feel, no matter how much pressure you're putting on yourself and how many emotions are flying around, try your best to learn to manage that and take everything that produces in the form of raw emotional and spiritual energy and channel it into becoming the person who can overcome the current challenges you're facing in business, so that you can manifest the opposite of what started you, if that makes sense. And that's really important. It's not talked about enough. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to have self-doubt. It's natural. It's normal. When you start a challenge, or when you start embarking on a mission of forged identity, creating someone new that you currently are not, your current sense of self and identity will scream along the way. And it's perfectly natural for the conflict of who you are becoming to who you are now, manifesting that through a business, to be pretty fucking horrible in your mind. But it doesn't mean you should give up. It's okay to feel the things, but it's not okay to stop. It's okay to lose the battle today if you believe it's strategic and helps you win the war in the next 10 years. Now, this should not become an excuse for you to not do the work, right? There's still a place for discipline. There's still a place for hard work and grinding. And I wouldn't change how I did things at all. But all I'm saying is that you should not give up, basically. Just keep going, because all you really have is the day and the next hour and the next minute. And it's what you do with that that will determine how successful you are. But if you're going through it and you're really in some pain, just don't stop. Just keep going, because I promise you it will be worth it. That was my experience. Mine will be the same for you. I could be totally wrong here, but from one person to another who's been through what you're going through many times over, just don't stop. All right? I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good day.